As the end of every year approaches, I often get reflective. And not just about the year past, but about the future too. Lately, I've been wondering what Canada might look like if children in school were taught the truth. I want you to come along with me for the next few minutes as I verbalize what I was thinking. Imagine if Canadian kids learned history honestly. Not the soft, sanitized, we're the good guys version. Not the version designed to make adults feel comfortable. Not the version edited for national branding, but the real one. Because here's what happens in a country that learns partial history. People grow up thinking inequality is just a coincidence. People think colonialism is ancient history instead of a living structure. People think accountability is an attack. And people confuse being uncomfortable with being oppressed. Imagine grade 4 social studies opening with truths like, Canada didn't just settle the land, it displaced the people already living here. Residential schools weren't about education, they were designed for erasure. The Indian Act wasn't a policy, it was a system of control. Treaties weren't sacred agreements, many were coerced, broken, or rewritten unilaterally. Modern inequalities didn't appear out of thin air, they were engineered through deliberate decisions. And instead of glossing over those realities with a quick paragraph in a coloring book, imagine if kids actually spent time understanding them. Understanding cause and effect. Understanding policy and power. Understanding why the present looks the way it does. Imagine if, from a young age, kids were taught that colonization wasn't an unfortunate footnote. It was the central organizing principle of the country, the blueprint on which Canada was constructed. Imagine if textbooks didn't treat Indigenous peoples as the people who existed before Canada, but as nations who still exist, with governments, cultures, economies, and laws that have survived every attempt to erase them. Imagine if schools taught in equal measure the history of resistance, the communities that pushed back, the leaders who fought, advocated, negotiated, and protected, the systems Indigenous nations rebuilt after policies tried to dismantle them, the languages revived, the cultures protected, the traditions carried through generations. Imagine a curriculum that didn't teach pride first and truth second, but truth first, so any pride that followed was actually earned, not inherited. A Canada where kids hear about systematic issues and say, oh yeah, that makes sense. We learned how these systems were built. Where conversations about inequality aren't met with denial, defensiveness, or panic. Where adults don't take factual history as a personal insult. Where acknowledging harm doesn't feel like treason. Imagine a Canada where the default response to truth isn't, that didn't happen, or stop blaming the past, but instead, okay, so what do we do now? That's the difference an honest education makes. It builds a generation that isn't afraid of the truth because they were never taught to run away from it. And maybe that's why so many people fight against honest history. Because once you know the truth, you can't unknow it. And once you teach kids the truth, they grow up expecting better from their country. Canada doesn't become weaker when we tell the truth. It becomes stronger. Because strength comes from understanding where you came from, what you inherited, and what needs to change. Honest history isn't a threat. It's the foundation of a better future. That's what an honest education makes possible. Peace out. And if you're not already following me, you should. It's going to be a ride.